What is going on, everybody? Welcome to today's video where I'm going to be showing you guys all about the Googan lines lineup. So basically in front of me I have all three types of lines that are presented by Googan and Ketchco, and today we are going to be doing a strength test. Now before we actually get out there and start testing these lines, I did want to go over a little bit about these three most popular types of lines in the fishing industry, and just kind of tell you guys a little bit more about them. Now, with that being said, guys, I just want to go over the three lines that we have right here in front of us. It is going to be the 15-pound Monofilament, it is going to be the 15-pound Fluorocarbon, and it is going to be the 15-pound 8x braid. Now, once again, these are the three most popular types of lines in the fishing industry for bass fishing. There are multiple different types of lines. There's coated lines, there's mixed lines, and there's different abrasions of braid. Specifically today, we're just going to be talking about the 8-pound braid, and we'll be talking about 100% fluorocarbon. There's fluorocoated, there's copolymer, there's a bunch of different stuff. I don't want to confuse you though. Let's just talk about the three specific lines that I have right here in front of me. And once again, they are all going to be 15-pound lines, and that is what we're going to be testing today, the strength of 15-pound line. Now, before we dig too far into the video, I just want to go ahead and do a big shout out real quick to Ketchco, because they are going to be sponsoring today's video. Once again, they are the maker and co-designer of these lines with Googan Squad. They got together, collaborated, and made three of the most high quality lines on the fishing market, available at shopkarls.com. And if you're a member, you can save big bucks. You can also use my code RyanR10. Get on over there, save yourself $10 off your first purchase. I'm going to be leaving the information to these lines below in my description, as well as the links to shopkarls.com. So if you're interested in going over there and picking it up yourself, it's just one click away. Now, big shout out to Ketchco once again for sponsoring today's video. Now let's dive into these lines and talk more about them. So the first line that I want to talk about real quick, guys, is going to be your mono line. Monofilament, aka mono. Now this is going to be by far the most popular line used in fishing due to the price. It is the cheapest and most cost-effective line on the market. But when you use mono, there's a lot of ups and downs to it. There's a lot of stretch in the line. It has a very clear consistency, but it tends to be very brittle over time and will break down very easy, especially if you tend to catch a lot of fish. So mono line is actually designed for lures that are going to be a little bit more buoyant, or stuff that you want to slowly sink down in the water. And that is going to be because mono is your most buoyant of your nylon type of lines. Now, I personally do not really use mono too much. The one time I do like to use it is when I'm fishing topwater poppers, or maybe a pencil bait, spook type baits, stuff that is going to be on top of the water that you want to have a little gappage in between twitching, and something that when you do hook up on a fish, it has a little bit of stretch, so that way they can kind of run with it and get those treble hooks hooked in there. Occasionally I will throw this line with some Texas rigs if I'm throwing a little bit heavier, kind of helps sink down a little bit more. But if I'm fishing near timber or rocks, I typically try to stay away from this stuff, just because abrasion does not mix well with mono. It tends to get real rough, real gritty, and break very easily. So once again, 15-pound mono by Googan and Ketchco. We'll be testing that out today. That is just a little bit more information for you guys and how I personally like to use it. Alright guys, so the next line we're going to take a look at is the 8-time braid by Googan. Now once again, 15 pounds. This is going to be 125 yards per spool though, green label. And just to tell you a little bit more about braid and how I personally like to use it, 8-time braid is going to be a little bit more of a finesse slit casting braid. In my preference, there's two types that I like to use. I know there's a few more on the market, but the two most important that you will see and that you need to know about are 4 times and 8 times. 8 times is going to be a little bit more silky smooth. 4 times is going to be a little bit more coarse, kind of more abrasive, kind of rips through grass a little bit easier in my opinion. This stuff will still rip through grass. It still works pretty well for, you know, just all around fishing, but as far as castability goes, there's a little bit easier casting with the 8-time versus the 4-time. Now, with that being said, let's talk about how you want to use it and what you want to be casting. Personally, whenever I'm fishing braid, it's usually on a heavier rod, and it's because I'm flipping vegetation, or I'm using a frog and it's in vegetation, lily pads, or I'm fishing stumps. Hard structure, maybe even rocks, stuff that you really don't trust, that you know if you flip your bait in there, there's a possibility that you might get roughed up. The two types of baits that I specifically love to use it the most with One is a flipping jig, because once again I like to flip it in and out of stumps, rocks, kind of weird structure, and that's all dependent on how you like to fish. I know a lot of people that do not like to fish braid with jigs. I go straight braid. I'm crazy. A lot of people like to use leaders, but once again, it all comes down to preference. Here in Texas, we fish a lot of stained water, a lot of browns, a lot of greens, so fishing a green braid makes it pretty easy to sneak up on the fish still and get the bite. If you're fishing clear water, you're definitely going to want to add a fluoro leader or something that can kind of trick the fish into getting that bite. At the same time, you might lose a little bit of strength, but that's just my personal opinion once again. So flipping jig is my first thing. If not punching, getting into that thick grass, into the thick mats, you need something to get in there real heavy, usually a 1 ounce to 2 ounce weight, a bullet weight with a punching setup. And you have to have braid when you're punching, guys, because once you get that stuff in that vegetation, you set the hook. 9 out of 10 times, if you do not have braid, you're either going to lose the fish because you're losing contact due to the vegetation, or you're going to break off and now that fish has a cool lip ring and you lost the lure. So the third lure that I like to use with braid, once again, probably the most important and by far the best lure to use with braid, is going to be a frog. Getting into that vegetation, get into that grass, get into the lily pads, and on top of that, braid tends to be a little bit more of a buoyant line. When it gets wet, it will somewhat sink, but it still stays a little bit subsurface. It's right there at the top. So this is definitely a line if you're fishing topwater lures. You can even throw it with these popper style baits. It just does not have the same stretch, so your hookup ratio may not be the same. And that is one thing about braid, it has straight contact. So depending on what bait you're using, you will feel a ton of difference. When I use these things with chatterbaits, I cannot stop feeling that vibration. And when you use it with a crankbait, you will not stop feeling the vibration. It is because you're having straight contact the entire time. There is little to no slack in the line, or little to no stretch in the line. Complete opposite of mono. So those are my favorite lures to use it. Once again, my favorite ways to use it is going to be punching, flipping, and frog fishing. It's a basic, thorough, great way to fish. If you are afraid to lose some big boys, slap on some braid and you are not going to have that problem anymore. You can feel a little more secure with yourself too when you get out there and you pull those fish in and your friend's over there losing them in that vegetation. Personally, I get crazy with braid. I'll even use blue and multicolor. It really doesn't matter here in Texas because we have such stained water, but once again, if you're fishing clear waters, you're going to definitely want to adjust to the water conditions, match the hatch, match the water, try to make it a little bit easier for yourself and trick those fish and getting the bites. So 15-pound braid, once again, 8-time by Googan will be what we're testing out there today. Last but not least, guys, the most expensive line on the market and the best friend to swim bait fishermen. This is going to be your 100% fluorocarbon. Now, there's multiple types of fluoro. There's going to be fluorocoated, and I will tell you that is not fluorocarbon 100%. The difference is fluorocoat is a mono line, so it is going to have that stretch, but it's going to be coated in a fluoro coating, which helps it sink. If you ever see a fluoro-coated line and you're curious, what's the difference? Run your finger on that line for a little bit, or when you're reeling in your line, run your finger on that line, take a look at it. You're going to have a chalky white residue on your hand, and that's due to that fluoro-coating. Once that fluoro-coating comes off, that line does not really sink too well, and you'll start to see it kind of wears down a little bit faster compared to fluorocarbon. Now, what is fluorocarbon? Fluorocarbon is 100% fluorocarbon per the box right there. And basically what that states is it is a solid, compact fluoro line. Fluoro, I believe, is a nylon type of plastic. I'm not exactly sure, I'm not 100% sure, but I know that it is a solid pack line and it's typically abrasion resistant. Depending on the type of line that you pick up, there's a lot of different types of brands for fluoro and the price range will vary depending on how abrasive resistant it is. But the main idea behind fluoro is it is a sinking clear line. It is the best way to get out there and trick fish. On top of that, it sinks down to the bottom, gets right to the spots real easy. So if you're flipping, pitching Texas rigs, you got a swim bait you want to throw out there, you got some lipless crankbaits, square bills, jerk baits. Basically, you can use fluoro for anything. Most popular though, it is going to be used for swim baits, square bills, jerk baits, crankbaits, the mid to lower level of stuff, because you want your line to get down there a little bit easier and stay down there. You don't want the buoyancy of the monoline to float your line back up. So 100% fluoro line is going to be what you're wanting to use: swim baits, crankbaits, that whole 9 yards that I just talked about. Now, what do I specifically use it for? I typically only use fluoro line for swim baits. If I'm getting out there and I'm fishing cranks or I'm fishing square bills, I typically will go into the coated line, just because it does have that stretch, and I do want to make sure I get a little bit of stretch in my rods. Now, depending on water depth and water levels and all that stuff, you will want to swap up and go to some fluoro lines. If I'm fishing 15 to 20 feet of water, I'm gonna have to go with something a little bit heavier to get my lures down there. But if I'm fishing smaller, shallower ponds, something that's 3 to 10 feet of water, a lot of times you don't have to go fluoro line unless you're typically throwing swim baits, something you want to get down there a little bit faster, a little bit easier. When you're fishing with chatterbaits, I will say it works very, very well with chatterbaits, but be careful on that hook set. Fluoro line is not as forgivable as braid or as mono. I can tell you, after losing about, I want to say like 6 or 7 jackhammer chatterbaits within the last year, fluoro line works great to get down there and trick the fish to bite. But as far as setting the hook, you got to be very, very careful. Once you do get a fish, make sure you check the line for any abrasive tearing or any sort of scuffs in the line, because in my opinion, fluoro is very, very weak once it is damaged. When it is not damaged, it can be strong as can be. It'll be the full 15 pounds, but any sort of abrasive tearing or stripping of the line, it just automatically weakens the line right there in that spot. So that's just my 2 cents on fluorocarbon line. Once again, 15 pound, 100% fluorocarbon by Googan. So now that you guys got a little bit more information about these 3 different types of lines, let's go ahead, get out there, start testing them out and see what they can take. All right, guys, out here in my garage, I have everything pre-rigged, pre-set up right here on this stand. As you can see, we got the 15 pound mono first, we got the 15 pound braid following that, and then we got the 15 pound fluorocarbon at the end, ready to lose my money since it's the most expensive line. Now, with that being said, guys, I got an assortment of weights right here behind me. Now, in my experience with testing line, I've done this one other time, there's going to be a lot of stretch and a lot of play in these lines, and sometimes they can carry more than 15 pounds. It's about the force that is exerted, I guess, through the line. So when you pull 15 pounds worth of tension is usually when they'll actually snap. Last but not least, I have this Velcro strap that we're going to be actually tying the lines to, and then adding weights to it little by little so we can make sure we don't have to keep on messing with the line. So without further ado, guys, let's go and get started. Alright, here's a 10 pound bass at the end of your line. That's what mono is going to do for you. That's not a bad thing. You want to make sure it holds on. Now, I'm sure if you start jumping on this line a little bit, ooh, sounds like a guitar string. It's a dangerous sound. I'm sure if you start putting some pressure on this line, we can snap it. So instead of me doing that, I'm going to go ahead and just add, let's see, I got some 3 pounders. This is a 5, this is a 3. Let's see if we can just add this right here somehow. All right, 13 pounds right there, guys. 13 pounds. This is awesome. All right, guys, next we're gonna put 16 pounds on here. Here's another 3 pound weight. Here we go. I have a feeling it's gonna pop on us. Oh my God. Oh my God. Actually scared the crap out of me. All right, so 16 pounds, makes sense, right? 15 pound line can only hold up to 14 pounds, 15 pounds max. I'm thinking anytime you get to around 15 pounds, it's gonna be a little too hard for these lines just because how I have them set up. There's a lot of overage hanging over, so there's a lot of weak points when you tend to hang your hook over logs and then back around. So take this with a grain of salt, guys. It might be able to withstand a little bit more pressure if we didn't have this little lip right here. So now let's go ahead and test out the next line, which is gonna be our fluoro. Let's save the best for last. Let's say braid for last. Fluorocarbon is what we're doing next. So here we go. Got this thing wrapped up basically. 10 pounds of weight on 10 pound fluorocarbon line. Line and weight you're shifting. It scares me. Holding up pretty well, champ. Guitar stringing again, so I know this thing is about to break, honestly. And one thing I did actually kind of relay earlier, guys, is when you're fishing stuff that is a little bit more abrasive, sometimes you got to be careful with fluoro because once it starts to actually put some damage or wear on the line, it'll just give right away. So let's see if this wood's going to cause any effect on that, but it should be able to hold at least this. Didn't even get to put it down. Didn't even get to put it down at all. And the line did not break up here. It broke down here where we're tied on. So that's a big surprise for me. We're rocking 13 pounds and the line broke. Once again, take this with a grain of salt, guys. I was kind of bouncing the line a little bit, and this is an overhang. So 13 pounds right now. Ooh, man, that tore it up. Another big thing I was trying to tell you guys, there's not as much stretch, not as much play as there is with mono. And as you can see, a little bit more stretch with your 15-pound mono compared to your 15-pound fluoro. Now, with the braid, there's going to be almost no stretch at all. But one thing I will say is that the diameter of the line is going to be a lot smaller, and we might be able to get more than 15 pounds of weight just because braid tends to be a lot stronger than what it normally states it's supposed to be. So another thing I'm doing too, which might kind of mess with the line a little bit, is I'm wrapping it around. I don't think it's going to cause much issue, but just wanted to state that. Here we go, 10 pounds. All right, so before we drop this one, let's just talk about where we're at right now. Mono withstood about 16 pounds. Took me for a surprise. I was actually really surprised when it broke. Wasn't even expecting to be able to put that weight on there, and then it dropped. The fluorocarbon, a little bit kind of disappointed. You know, it might be because there's a little bit of bend and stretch in the line coming over this little edge and just how I was putting it on the weight. But regardless of that, here goes 10 pounds on the braided line. Test it out. Anytime this stuff is like this, it just freaks me out. All right, so there's 10 pounds. Moving, bouncing, sounds like a guitar. Oh my God. I just broke it by playing it like a guitar. I'm gonna have to test that out again because I think I broke that by pulling it too hard, but that is kind of a surprise. I'm not gonna lie. Only 10 pounds on the 15-pound line. That's a big surprise. I'm gonna go ahead and try this one more time. All right, here goes. 10 pounds, guys. Another test. Just feel like the first one was a little off. Could be wrong. Move my knee so I don't break it. Walking away. I'm not gonna play guitar strings this time. All right, 10 pounds, fairly easy. If we don't get the 13, I'm gonna be a little upset, but at the same time, I might be knocking it weird. Just the angle, I can't put the weight on there right. Put it down here. That basically had the entire 13-pound weight on there right before it broke. So 13 pounds, once again, on the braid is what I'm gonna say we're hitting. So 15 to 16 on the mono. We had 13 on the braid and 13 on the fluoro. Man, I'm pretty surprised right now. I actually just kind of have to like give it a second and kind of let it all process. So guys, it looks like we are officially complete with our test, and the conclusion is that these lines can withstand close to 15 pounds. Now, once again, I will say that these tests you will need to take with a grain of salt, and on top of that, a lot of the line pressure has to do with the actual leverage that you put on the line to pull ratio. So a lot of these lines you'll be reducing the weight and the mass that you'll be pulling them in due to the drag and due to your pull, due to the bend. There's a lot of science technically in fishing. With that being said, I will say that 13 pounds being graded as a 15-pound line, I will say if we did actually get out a proper force scale, something that we could pull down directly on the line, something that is probably not directly over the edge of something, that we might get a exact pressure at 15 pounds. But as far as just a naked eye challenge, a naked eye test, getting out here with some 15-pound weights, 10s and 3s. I'm a little surprised. You know, we got out here, we found out that the mono seems to be the strongest of the 3 lines, when originally I was coming in here so confident that the braid was going to be the big show today. But hey, that's just the way it is. That's why we do these tests. I do them for you guys and I do them for myself because it's a learning process, but it's good information for everybody to have. And one more thing, this isn't a video to put a product on a spotlight. This is just something so that way you guys can have a little bit more information if you're looking for this particular product or if you're trying to get some more information about products. There's a ton of different brands, there's a ton of different lines. Once again, there are too many lines to even mention right now. But my main purpose today was just to get out here and to test 3 of the most popular lines on the fishing market, and a line that is going to be my favorite. So I'm glad that I got here. I got a better idea of what I can be able to, boat flip if we need to. If it's a 10-pounder, good for us. We can pull it in with a 15-pound line. Here in Texas, there's not really much more than 10-pound bass. I mean, we do have our 14s, we do have our 15s, but we're not going to be pulling in 22-pound bass or 13-pound bass, every day. And if we are going to be, fishing for bigger bass, I will be throwing bigger lines, something that's going to be more of a 20 to a 25 caliber. Because I'll be throwing bigger swim baits. So just to get a basic idea, 15-pound line, what it can do for you guys. Y'all saw the video. If you guys have any questions for me, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you're liking videos like this, it's great to know. It gives me something to work with to make future videos for you guys. If you're not liking them, let me know though in the future too, so that way I don't focus so much time and energy painting up that subscribe button, so that way you guys notice it while I'm out here testing. But that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Once again, leaving links below for all these lines, and for shopkarls.com, you can use my code RyanR10, save yourself $10 off your first purchase. But that is going to be it for today, guys. Hopefully y'all enjoyed. Hopefully you learned a little bit more about your fishing line, and if you're enjoying the videos, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, and make sure you subscribe to the channel as well, so you can be a part of all the future videos that are similar or maybe even better than this. But that is going to be it for today, guys. Once again, thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one. Peace.